You are very welcome. And I have to actually compliment your members. If you're going to give a template on how to feed information in and consult with members of the House, you certainly have the template, because it was done in a very constructive manner, factually based rather than emotionally, and it certainly helped me get to grips with it very well and very quickly. So well done on that. And certainly my attitude to this has been, it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. At a very early stage, you realise the forecasts are right, the money's coming in, so why start tampering? But lead on to that, in the documentation you supplied us, you pointed out the previous time it changed from the 31st of January to the 31st of October, and that was done over a 3-year period, a month per year. And if there is an overwhelming argument to say that this has to be moved back now, and like we're going to go into it, yes, would that be a mechanism or a template to do it, to take it at a month at a time and use it? Well, I'm not saying it's an ideal thing for your thing, but would it be more manageable if it has to be moved, if it was done in that manner?
And again, if I may, and Cora might want to come in here, but I think, Deputy, the point you make is really important, because when that change happened, when we arrived at the final destination, there was still a 10-month gap between the end of the year and the filing date. So that was still obtained. So, Cora, if you want to add to that.
I think only to add that at the end of that process, when we got onto a calendar year, we probably ended up with a better system, a simpler system. We preserved our filing period, and it was the right thing to do. And it's hard to see how we would, after all the pain that this would inflict on small businesses, at the end of the day, it would be a better system for them, and because of the reasons we've explained about the risk and the inaccuracies for anybody else in the system to go through that pain. So they were a little bit different in that respect. Yeah.
So I think, sorry, just one comment on that as well, is I think for business people as well, they like the idea of a January-December year end. It fits in with, it's a calendar year, this year, next year, the whole psyche. So it suits and it worked, and that's why I think probably the change to the calendar year basis works as well as it does work at the moment.
No, I certainly accept the logic of the argument, especially within the tourism industry and even in the farming industry. How much milk a cow produces is weather related as well. The same thing as the tourist industry. So if you're estimating in June on what your income is and paying in that, would be very difficult. So I do accept, and I think that's why the type of reform I want to see in this House. This is probably an example of where you have a draft budget, you have an opportunity to debate and discuss the implications of that budget and possibly to make amendments to it before it's implemented. And I think that's the kind of process that we should be striving, this type of reform that we need to be striving towards in the Dáil itself, that we very much see the budget as a draft budget as published, and then we have a time to discuss, debate with the experts at the time before an implementation day. And I think this is a fine example of how that can be done in a very positive manner. Can I just, and it's just purely to get my own head around, you use the example there,
Deputy.
And it's a little bit of, wouldn't the person there that you show the example when they would have an opportunity of tidying up their tax affairs? Like, isn't it, when you make a payment and then early next year you have to kind of look back, was it accurate, and make the payment there? I'm always worried about these things. If I'm getting an example, I'd like it to be presented factually and what opportunities do they have, because I think it's very important if you're having an interaction here, you keep it as factually as possible. So would that interaction have been opportunity to, I presume Michael Maguire is a fictional person, Michael Maguire would have had an opportunity well before he was out of the 3 years down the road to actually tidy up his affairs when his tax advisors had seen his out of his year's returns. Would that not have happened?
Possibly not. It's like everything, I suppose. If you're dealing with a set of figures and if an estimate has to be made, the estimate is made, the intention would be there, right, we need to go back, that needs to be looked at, that needs to be fixed. But you don't know what's happening in his day-to-day business. The following year moves on.
Isn't that a responsibility of the individual and also the tax advisor, is to actually do the tidy up, because it's an estimate tax and then part of the tidy. Sorry,
It is the
The deputy's absolutely right. In the ideal world, absolutely right. But unfortunately, in the real world, he's moved on. Okay, he's now worried about the following year, and he might just not have the wherewithal or the time to go back and re-examine. So you'd say to yourself, why press him to get the answers in early and then go back and correct it? Why not just give him time to get it right and get it in time?
But isn't that part of a tax advisor's role? If it probably assisted in making the estimate, and then you do the tidy up and you're making the forward assessment. It's just to understand your role.
If it's okay, Chairman, draw the deputy's attention to this, because this is really important, okay? This should be a fundamental of any good tax system. The system should make it as convenient and easy as possible for the taxpayer to meet their obligations. Don't give them a false early deadline and say get it corrected after the event. Give them enough time to get it right first time.
Yeah, but in the example that you're giving of the Michael Maguire, that example is under the current system, not the...
No, look, that's the one. If we brought it back, sorry, if we brought it back earlier, Sandra was trying to explain, if we brought it back earlier, the pressure would be under to get the stuff in, and it would end up probably in a less accurate return than if he had the current time he has.
And just for its, Sandra, you made the point, I think it's a very interesting point. Probably what we're thinking is make it actually easier for people to make returns and all that. And I was kind of pointing that back when you said there was 347 boxes in 2003 and 635 in 2012. Where
That's in total numbers. It's breaking it down. There was 14 panels in 2003 made up of 47 main sections, which then broke down into 347. And in 2012, there's 18 main panels, 118 main sections, and 635 potential boxes.
And do you think that could be simplified down further to the benefit of the revenue commissioners and yourselves, and how to deal with that? And is there an opportunity for that use that interaction?
Yeah, Deputy, yes. I mean, Chairman, Deputy Doherty has asked it to come back to you, Chairman, with recommendations how to improve the system. I can assure you that will be on the list.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Chairman.